Welcome to Channel AMAC, your insight to the Australian visa system. G'day everyone, my name is Carl Young, your online YouTube visa consultant. Are you interested about migrating to Australia? Why don't you consider to subscribe to my channel and make sure you turn on the bell on the sides once we have all the updates and news. Be the first one of getting all the insight. Now, today's video, I would like to answer a question. Obviously, we know about the Migration Review Report and the upcoming changes of employment sponsor visa by shifting or increasing the TISMIT from 53,900 to 70,000, and obviously abolish the LMT, and also abolish the requirement of the occupation list for the employment sponsor visa. So how that will actually affect a work visa in the future, and a comparison of what you really need to pick, either from choosing a 482 in the future, from July 2023 onwards, or perhaps choosing a 494 if you're in regional area. So obviously we do not have the actual policy and law there, but from what we have seen so far from the Migration Review Report and also the recommendations, it will precisely predict what's gonna be like. So I'm gonna say now, if you're in Suburban area, there is no choice. There's only 482 visa to do, but obviously the requirement income threshold has to be 70,000. So obviously you don't go out there and talk to employers and look, just increase my salary, increase my income so I can get a visa. Do you think that will work? I don't think so. If I'm the employer, I won't be happy with hearing about that. But if your job or your position, if you're just starting to get graduated and you're just starting to get a job, obviously you probably won't be able to get to that 70,000 mark. So where do you go then? Obviously, the solution is regional. So I believe that regional visa will still be there. Obviously, you know about the 482. They have, the employment sponsor visa will have 3 different tiers. So the bottom tier will be somewhat towards regional and for lower income earners or for skilled workers. So that will be focusing on the lower end, obviously in the remote or regional area. So I think that will be the key there. If you really cannot actually get to a 70,000, but if you can actually get to 70,000 no matter what sort of job, because the occupation list is not gonna be there anymore and there's no more labor market testing requirement, what is your pick? Well, pretty obvious. If I'm you, or I will advise you just take 482. Because 482 visa, I'm not too sure how they're going to restructure 494 in respect to the change of the employment sponsor visa, because 482 traditionally, you don't need a skill assessment. And if there's going to be no occupation list, obviously there's nothing to be assessed with. So picking up 482 will be a much better solution for your choices there. Now, obviously, we don't know about 494, but if the occupation list is lifted, dump into the bin, supposedly 494 will do the same. So obviously you know about if you don't know about 494, the subclass 494 is skilled employment sponsored regional provisional visa. It's a change or replacement from a traditional regional 187, which gives you permanent residency straight away. Well, that was back in the old days. They changed to 494 because they wanted to lock you in the regional area. They don't want you to get permanent residency and then leave regional. Well, that's pretty fair, but the current system for 494 requires you to actually get the skill assessment, the general English as well, and 3 years later you're well to transfer into 191, which is the permanent residency. Now remember, we also have seen the changes of the employment sponsor visa where you're only required to work for 2 years in order to transfer into permanent residency, but the current system for 494 is 3 year to 191. So I suspect the changes will take effect on that one as well. So the pick here is as long, because now first of all we need to understand, because the occupation list is going to be thrown away, so there's no more occupation list, and obviously no more skill assessment requirement. But I don't know if you need to still demonstrate you have some sort of what they call closely related work experiences of 2 years, because that's what the requirement of 482 originally. I think that will still be required, but you don't. Obviously, that means you cannot take 2 years of cookery or chef experiences in order to apply for an IT job and employment sponsor. That won't work anyway. Okay, so I think the closely related work experiences will still be there, require 2 years, and the 3-year work experiences for 494. Whether they gonna align that with the 482, that's question mark. I don't know how they're gonna do it, or they will remove that, because previously 494, it's, if you want to go to regional and you got 3 years of work experience and going through skill assessment, you might as well get a 186. You get a permanent residency straight away. Why bother going to regional? So I think regional, they will do a little bit of tilting and amendment there as well. So obviously, if you have, but if you do have a job offer that is over $70,000, what is your pick? I would say you will pick 482. Will be much easier. Obviously, you don't need to. Well, they wanted to promote to regional, but you're not required to stay in regional area. You're more free to go. And plus, remember, in the migration review report, there also a suggestion and recommendation saying that during your employment, you have more freedom to change your employment sponsor. So how would that work? How would that work if you were on 482 or you were on 494 and changing, especially in those areas that's a gray area, for example, between Brisbane and Gold Coast? Now, Gold Coast regional. If your employer wanted to shift you to Brisbane, what would that happen? Or if your employer wanted to shift you from Brisbane to Gold Coast, what's gonna happen there? Are you gonna reapply for another 482, or you gonna reapply for another 491? It's question mark. So I think overall, how this employment sponsor visa, it's moving towards a favorable position where a lot of skilled migrant, including the international student graduates, could actually utilize this to migrate rather than traditional general skill migration, because there has been over the past years, there has been too many people inquire about general skill migration. Obviously, you don't need a sponsor there, but it's a pool that everybody compete together. But if you do be able to get a job offer in the future with the new regulations, it's actually much more favorable to actually transfer to become a permanent residency. Plus, you get income. Isn't that great? Anyway, should you have more question, query, more than welcome to leave comment right down below, and I see you next video. Goodbye.